the significant thing about all of this, I think, whether it's ships in the sky or Jesus in a cloud or like whatever this all turns out to be, or the crashing of banks, and because we know like the financial systems are all dead anyway, right? Which just, when's the body actually going to hit the floor? What it all points to in all of their language is a point of no return, and that's the interesting bit to me.
Still and silent, calm before the storm, gold and diamond, jewels behind the throne, into the night, out of the dark, take to the sky, chasing the stars, all that we said, all that we are, waiting to fly, this is the start. Hide and seek, reason and rhyme, grand and glorious, living the dream, yours and mine, euphoria.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Debbie Dubois and I am with my very good friend Hamish Bartholomeaus, and he's in Australia. How are you doing over there on the other side of the planet?
Doing very well this morning. Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like you're in my tomorrow and I'm in your yesterday. It's so weird. Well, we start off this recording with some pretty big news. And I wasn't going to say anything until like we confirmed it with the news reports. You want to go ahead and you want to make the big announcement? I'm sure everyone's going to know by the time this video goes out, most likely.
Know now, but it's like someone's shot at Trump at some rally or other. Maybe he's been hit, maybe not. Who knows? But shots fired at a rally anyway. So things are starting to heat up quite a bit.
You know, and one of the reasons why we decided to do this video in the first place is because we haven't seen a lot of people predicting a lot of things, but we've got a prediction for the 15th and 16th. And we've been kind of, I don't know, it's like I've known about it for a while. Didn't you find out about this for a while ago, or is this something that you just...
Yeah.
But it showed up.
The Clif High part of the prediction, he's been angling on July with his data set since Christmas time or before. I think like it's been there. And as it gets closer, more and more stuff's been coming out. But his data sets are very nebulous around that. Like you need to have experience and know what the language means, because it could mean any number of things. Like it's not really a prediction, but that has been headlined. Like June, July, August has been in the crosshairs for something happening for quite a while.
Right.
And we've been filming it, haven't we? Like this building, I almost get sick of talking about building tension. Like
I know.
How much more can we build, Debbie?
Oh my
but
gosh.
It's building.
We know. we keep saying the same thing, and we keep coming back for videos where it's like there's something happening.
Yeah. And look, like there's a part of me, because I've kind of been down the rabbit hole and out the other side, like you have on a lot of different things. Like there's part of me that wouldn't even want to mention the Trump thing or getting shot at a rally, or because it's just like that's such another stage that I'm looking at but not really paying attention to. But there's this thing about Americans, like people from the United States, like presidents and flags, and these are just symbols that you don't touch, and which is why when you totally know when America's like tinkering in someone else's country, because someone's burning flags, someone's shooting at a president, like because in this United States mindset, which Australia is very much embroiled in, and it's some sort of lag over from the United Kingdom, from the Roman Empire. Like we can follow this figurehead metaphor back.
Right.
Like flags and figureheads and kings and queens and presidents are just these untouchable items. if people are still invested in that or attached to that program in any way, that's kicking a hornet's nest.
Yeah, well, everything, that I've been feeling with I mean, I've done a couple videos about spaceships in the sky. Just, for me, galactic showing up seems to be something that, and I'm not the only one. I know other people have been saying that too, because it seems like it's something that would kick off something. And there seems to be an element of that in Clif High's forecast, or his data set. And then we've got remote viewers. And of course, all of us that have been watching this stuff for years on end, we know that, Project Bluebeam was something that we were expecting at some point, where they would, put some kind of holographic thing in the sky. We didn't really know,
Yeah.
And so this whole thing with Clif High and these remote viewers is that they're basically saying that there is, what do you want to say, data points, algorithms that pick up words and chatter in the collective as there are things that happen, and that there's a discharge of energy, it seems, in the aftermath going into like the 16th and 17th. And what he's saying is that people are going to be talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, and I can't, like, it's interesting because it's like the 14th, yeah, and nothing's perfect as far as, but it'll be interesting to see how many things, because this is how consciousness seems to work a little bit for me. It'll be interesting to see how many things are potentially there, because like shooting at a former president and maybe even hitting him, that's a very fast, like, there's lots of talk about him leading up to this thing. This thing happens, and then there's lots of talk after it, like release tension, or whatever they talk about, release language.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a potential. I don't think it's it, but there's a potential. How many layers of potentials are we going to see? And it's like, which one will be the actual one that they were forecasting? But it's funny because it's not really. That's the best way to look at it for me, is like these potential outcomes, and some of them are more potential than others, and then it's like, will it play out in the way that you think it will here? Because Clif High, like, whatever the opinion is about all of that, the way he presents his data is he's skimming human traffic, not bot traffic on the web. He's skimming human traffic on the web and pulling up words that are getting used a lot and language, and he's saying it's some sort of psychic forecasting. Like, people don't know they're doing it, but they're reading the future somehow. And this is exactly what remote viewers do as well, except they're going in and they're actually projecting themselves forward to see if they can spot the target. So it's, one's a materialistic way of getting at it, and the other one's a very woo-woo way of getting at it. But when they overlap like that, you know that the potential's pretty high when the woo-woo guys that are right out there doing this remote view stuff, and it's not that it's nonsense. People like to say, well, the military have got big remote viewing programs. It's like, the military do lots of wacky stuff. It's not, that doesn't mean much,
Right.
but it does pay back. Like, it's not like this thing that's never worked before. Like, remote viewing does have a percentage of payback to it. That's why they continue to use it.
Right.
So when you get something like Clif High's data feed, if it's not just a story we're all being fed, right? Like,
True.
let's just assume this is all real, because I'm not imagining it is all real. Everything's on the table here. But if we're going to imagine it's real, you've got his version of reading the future and these other people's versions of reading potential futures, and they've gone like this.
Right.
And they've overlapped, and they're talking about sky events is the one phrase, and human nervous system is another big thing that they're looking at. And so we get this idea of like Project Bluebeam, like holograms in the sky, maybe inducing people's nervous systems with frequency technology to bring on DMT surges to make them see things that potentially aren't out there but are in here. or potentially they are out there and you are just, it's not that they're a hallucination, you're actually seeing through the veil. And like anyone who does psychedelics will tell you, sometimes you're seeing shit that isn't there, and sometimes you're just seeing stuff that is there, but you can't usually see it.
Right.
So there's all of these different layers going on, but they all point to the significant thing about all of this, I think, whether it's ships in the sky or Jesus in a cloud or like whatever this all turns out to be, or the crashing of banks, and because we know like the financial systems are all dead anyway, right? It's just, when's the body actually going to hit the floor? What it all points to in all of their language is a point of no return, and that's the interesting bit to me, because we haven't hit a point of no return yet. 2020 would have thought of was a point of no return, and it was for quite a few people, but for quite a lot of other people, it's like they just went back to same old, right?
Right.
Like it never happened. So now we're talking about a point of no return that's more of a head kicker than 2020.
Right. Oh, yes.
That's going to be
And we
interesting.
kind of needed it, actually, because, I mean, what we went through 2020, it affected a lot of people. But this is one of those things where from the conversations that they see on the discharge of this, you can't say that it didn't happen. Whatever happens, and this is if it happens, they say that it's not something that's disputed. People say, oh, we know it happened. We just don't know what it means now. Right.
Yeah, and if you think that's, because that's a really good point. That's part of this whole point of no return, is it's not did you see something in the sky, or did you know that thing happened? It's what did you see it as, or how did it affect you? It's that kind of thing, which 2020 was definitely that, because some people think it was come from a lab. Some people think it was a naturally evolving thing. Some people think that there's nothing there at all because the whole thing's pseudoscience, and your whole, like, hello, that's me, right? Those things don't actually exist in the way that you think they do. That's not what's going on. That's my take. But there are some people that I respect and I love, and I'll have conversations with all day and all night, who follow the lab theory. And there are other people who follow, like, not the lab theory, but they still believe that there's actually like a thing, like this thing that they gave the name to, that everyone caught and caught again. And I know plenty of people who still, they're into that. And I'm like, that's fine. That's not, it's just my personal feeling that that's not what's actually going on here, but it doesn't matter because the outcome's the same, right?
Everyone experiences things differently. I mean, this is where we're getting into timelines. You know, people are experiencing things differently during that whole period of time when people were locked down. I was traveling all over the place. I was hopping on planes. I'm walking down the hallways at the airports with no mask, and I was one of those rebels, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be like, oh, you know, but it's just the different realities that we all were experiencing. And that's kind of what I feel is probably very likely to happen in this case, is that I think that we will, I'm curious how you think, how will people know that this is real? How will they know? I mean, like, this seems to be some kind of consensus, like, oh, well, we're all going to know that it happened, and there's going to be proof, and there's going to be pictures and all that stuff. But, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but with all the tech that we have now, how could you know what's real and what's not real anyways? You know, it's ships in the skies. We got pictures of it, and everyone's like, oh, I saw the ships, or ships are in the sky, blah, blah, blah. And then we've, you know, it could be different.
So this is a great point, because I was in the middle of a morning walk. It was like 6:30 in the morning or something, and I'm like halfway, not even halfway, listening to the thing that you sent me, which was Clif and not Dick, Clif and what's his name, the Canadian guy. Anyway,
Jean Claude or whatever his name is.
Yep. So they were chatting away, and I had to I had to stop. I stopped right where I was and went into the sunshine and recorded that video that I put on YouTube today, because I couldn't.
Rascal.
I couldn't. Yeah, I was like, oh no, I have to address this. And then I kept on listening, And like it was almost like I wanted to put a footnote into my video, so it's great that I can put it here because I was talking about, you know, a DMT experience or an induced DMT experience, or will it be a hologram that's got nothing to do with DMT? They're sure the nervous system's got something to do with it. Everyone's nervous system who's kind of like they're talking about normies, right? But anyone who's not training themselves, and a lot of people aren't trained, like they're in and they're noticing and that, but they're just in this and they don't know how to train themselves, and that's no drama. They're not training themselves. Their nervous systems in the last 5 years have been a little bit fried from one thing and another, and we've been building up to that point. So what's real and what's not, because I want to say a nebulous Hamish thing like, well, what is even real? Like, welcome to Altered Carbon, welcome to the Matrix, right? But them talking about it absolutely headlined that, because like the words out of Clif's mouth were, when we said like everyone will see something, he said something will appear in the sky, people will have photographs of it, some people will have a photograph of like a clearly defined ship, and other people will have just a funny little blur, but you will know that it's not just an artifact, like they talk about a digital artifact or a camera lens flare or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, excuse my language, but does the fucking camera have a DMT suppository? Like, like seriously, right? If we're talking about a DMT event that's not linked to some sort of blue beam hologram, and we're thinking that consciousness is like, we're in this kind of mechanized thing where like there's me with my consciousness, but I don't even know what it is, and there's the phone, or there's the film camera, or there's the digital camera, like however we're going to do this. How come someone's camera will pick it up and someone else's camera won't? What is that dependent on how much DMT is flowing through the system of the person holding the camera? Like,
what do you think the answer is to that, Hamish? That's a very good question.
I'm just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Right. But if that doesn't tell you that we're not in Kansas anymore, I don't know what does.
Oh, right? Because we might be having different experiences. We might be having two totally different realities. Is that what you're thinking?
If you're using an iPhone 13 and I'm using an iPhone 13, and they're running the same software and they're running the same lens and they're going through the same bloody cloud, then how come yours is going to get it and mine isn't? Is that based on where we are in the world? Is that based on our level of perception and consciousness? Is that based on the level of DMT running through our system, or what the phone towers are doing, or the harps doing in our local area? But the thing with that is, that would mean that the picture on the screen is going to be the same for everyone, and it's just my perception of what I'm seeing on the screen. But what they were suggesting was, when I share my blurry picture, everyone will see a blur.
Right.
But when you share your clear ship picture, everyone will see a ship. Now that's just about hologram. There's no DMT comes into that at all. So what are we even talking about with nervous systems and stuff?
Let me throw something in there. Some people can take pictures with an iPhone and some people can't. And I'm telling you, that is a definite. Yeah, some people don't have the skills to do that. I'm a good photographer.
But I mean, I'm going to dig even further into that, and I'm going to say, what do we classify as a picture? Because some people can take pictures on their iPhones of ghosts, and you can see it, right?
True. Yes.
But other people can't take pictures on iPhones of their ghosts running around, and it's the same damn phone. So is it just like?
Okay, so basically what you're kind of hinting at is that the operator of the particular piece of equipment has something to do with the outcome. So it's whatever's inside of you that enables you to be able to pick up certain things and see certain things and create your own reality in a certain way, regardless of what the tech is here.
And share that reality to other people, though.
Right.
That's the thing, right? Because we're talking about the double slit experiment stuff of consciousness. Right. It doesn't exist until you're looking at it, and it depends on who's looking at it. Because double blind experiments wouldn't need to be double blind if if it didn't work that way, like the doctor knows something, but the nurse doesn't know. Well, if the nurse doesn't know, she doesn't have to be blinded. But as soon as she knows, you've got to blind her in the experiment as well. It's like, it's this weird consciousness effect that the medical profession pretends doesn't exist, because that means placebo is like worth about 80% of what they do.
Right.
And we can't explain that. But it's not, to me, I've been playing with this a little bit, and it's, to me, it doesn't mean that I'm affecting the iPhone. I don't think that's what's going on. It means I'm affecting the spaceship. And then as I send my field effect out and I actually see a defined spaceship and not just a blur,
You're able to capture it.
it comes back and the iPhone catches it as it comes back in. And that's why some people are capturing ghosts and other people are capturing just a dark room with nothing at all, because different people are creating a different field effect around them.
That's
But
exactly, yep.
then the phone is grabbing it and freezing it in reality. And so two people could be standing in the same room. You and I are standing in the same room. We both take a picture of the same corner where the cat's staring. You see the ghost, your phone catches it. I don't see the ghost, my phone doesn't catch it. But then you can show me your phone and there's the ghost.
Right.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Like we're having this full on, and if your field is strong enough, your field effect would overcome my lack of field effect, and I'd start to see your ghost.
That
which
makes
is
sense.
The guru. That's the guru effect of, the Shakti putt or whatever. You touch the person and they get this kind of burst of energy, because you're a little mini nuclear reactor or something. You're carrying your own field effect around with you. And so
Right.
now let's just throw this out there.
Okay.
Now do we see why maybe, like, us, as in people who are doing this sort of work, are spread all over the world in such a thin way? Like,
Yeah.
everyone, how many people do you get into a forum and they're like, oh, I just wish you guys were so close to me. You're in Portugal and you're in Peru and why are we so spread out around the world? What if we all carry a higher field effect?
Yeah. And we are absolutely the, what do you want to call it? The antennas that
Yeah.
what do you want to say?
Yeah.
Spark
So
off the energy.
We're going to be, and we're going to boost
Boost.
the field effect. So when this thing, whatever this thing is, comes in or comes out of us, like however it works, we'll be boosting the field effect,
Right.
so that other people will actually notice somehow.
Right. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I've even thought, did we discuss this? I was thinking that if something doesn't happen, it doesn't mean nothing happened, because unfortunately, what I've been, realizing over this course of I don't know, 20 years, is that sometimes the biggest changes take place and we're not even consciously aware of it until we go back and we look.
I would almost say always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always. That's why I'm always looking at obscure stuff and
Right.
talking in obscure ways, and because I'm trying to remind myself and remind anyone who can be bothered listening to me or wants to listen to me, stop looking at the headline. Like,
Right.
whatever's got your attention, great. Get your attention and then filter out, because, like, it's not the thing that they say started World War II. That's not it.
Right.
You want to look like 6 months either side of that for really obscure stuff, like buildings collapsing in New York. Like, that's not it. That's what they want you looking at. That's what the whole pattern and the design and the deception wants you to look at. But that's not the beginning.
Right.
That's like, you're already 20% in by the time something like that happens. It started way back, and you'll be able to see the obscure little trigger. So, like, if we get through the 16th and everyone's like, see, nothing happened, well,
Well, we've already had just a possible presidential
Yeah.
assassination attempt. I mean, it's like
Totally.
we can't say that nothing's happened because something just did happen.
Something
Now,
just did
we
happen.
don't know what the effects of that right there is. We don't know how that might feed into and play out in the next couple of days. Will there be tension if this really happened? I mean, we get the impression that it really happened. Something happened, something
Yeah.
they want us to see and think
Yeah.
they want us to see it has happened.
Exactly.
But here we are sitting here in this tiny little slice of time having a conversation. We weren't even anticipating that. This happened 11 minutes before you and I get on here and have our conversation. And so we don't know what the rippling out effect of that is going to be. Could you imagine if, let's say, it was a true blue attempt and successful attempt? Can you imagine people going crazy in my country? Right?
Yeah,
So there's,
and
yeah.
he just gets added to the list of
Look at
politicians.
this.
Yeah. Politicians getting added to the, like, how many politicians have been shot and or killed in the last 12 months around the world? I think the last 4 months. Like, there's been a spate of it. It's happened a lot. So it's kind of like add it to the list in one way, but in another way, it is a headline event, and you and I have said definitely that we know that something big happened energy-wise in January, like
Oh,
early-ish
yeah.
January.
Yes.
Something massive happened, and then again in March,
Yes.
something massive happened, and then we kind of came into June, and June was like the third one and everyone's June was sideways. Like, I don't know one person who just went, oh no, June was just another month for me.
Oh,
No. Everyone's June kicked their ass, right?
yeah.
So it was like these three hits, and now we're in July, and to me, it's almost like the sky event is the Twin Towers and that other one that no one talks about hitting the ground.
Right.
Something's going to happen potentially like that in the next few days, and everyone's going to turn around and go, see, look, this big event, and you and I will be going, no, that started in January.
Right.
That's where that
Absolutely.
began.
And you know how you know is what I have started to understand is how do you tell when things happen when you don't have any real world things that kind of say something happened? And that is how you interact with the field, how you create, how you're communicating with people, how is the energy and your relationship with everything that you've got going on in your life. And it's like you can tell if something shifted and changed. Either you're handling situations differently, things aren't bothering you that used to be bothering you, or they are bothering you that never bothered you before, or you just find yourself drawn to new stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? It's how we're changing is the barometer of what's out there, and so the whole thing about going inside and always focusing on the inside of us and our inner being is it's how we are interacting with in relationship to everything around us that changes, right? So what we in that means even the big events that happen, when big events happen, they change us and we're affected, but most of the time everyone's out here worried about what's going on out here, right? And
But that's
and
not what's going on.
well, and some of the things that I'll just say this, some of the things that let me know that things were superly changing is the fact that out of nowhere, I was having a joke, my friend Amy, I was having a joke with Amy and we're like, yeah, if we want to have a glass of wine, we're going to do it because this place is really hard and we needed to survive. Or we were just laughing about this stuff. Within 36 hours, she had something happen with a root canal or whatever, and it was like she found out, oh, I gotta change some stuff in my diet, and I gotta fly right and do all this stuff, and no wine. And I went on a fast. Like, boom, my inner being said, time to fast. And I'm like, okay, lemonade. I've got it right here. Lemonade sounds great. But
Yep.
but what I'm saying is it's like that kind of significant change. I said, oh, something's up. And then I find myself called to the gym twice a day. Like, what? And I was like, I got to go. I just got to be there. I just knew I had to be there twice a day, different times. And that to me was the internal barometer that tells me something is happening. There was some kind of change in direction from the
Yeah.
connection that I have with my inner being, and it was like, okay, we're gonna do this now. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
And
tell.
in isolation, that's just you in isolation. But then you and I talk after a couple of weeks of not having much communication at all, maybe
Right.
a month, and I say, oh yeah, isn't it interesting? Because I'm kind of like out doing big, like getting up early in the morning and going on these big walks to get moving, to get my body moving and starting to like work out more again
Right.
because that had tapered right off. And I've strung together a couple of like 4-day fasts
And that's what I've
because
done. Yep.
it's like feeling like, and the weird thing is I've been feeling like I've been wanting to do that for 6 months and it hasn't been happening and it's been low key pissing me off. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, now you start it today. And
And
all, and
we
it's not even work, it just happens.
we did it at the same time. And then you told me you took a break and ate. And I took last weekend, I took a break and ate and then I jumped right back on it on Monday and you jumped right back on it. We didn't even talk. This was something we realized we did after the fact. I mean, that is
Yeah.
just crazy. That's the 100-month monkey thing. Anyone else out there that's decided to fast and eat and then fast again, put it in the comments below.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it's like on its own, you kind of go, it's just me. But when you can like string together a group, and there's more than just two of us, of people who are tuned into these kind of feelings in the field and have a feeling now like, oh, we haven't quite got the word to jump yet, but like the amber light's on. Like it's nearly green light. It's nearly time to jump out of the aircraft. Like we're all feeling the change from the red light to the amber light. So it's
And
whatever that is, there's a group of us that are feeling it,
well,
definitely.
and the hard part about that is, I said this in a little video I did yesterday. It's like nobody's been psyoped more than me. All right, I have been psyoped left, right, and center. You name it, I bought into it. And I do think that that was part of like all of my training is just seeing how many different ways can you be psyoped to Sunday, right? So, but and here we are. We're making a video. We decided, hey, we want to get on here, and I will throw in the caveat that I did a reading yesterday. If you guys haven't seen the reading, go check it out where I pull cards on this, and I got 50-50. So that's what prompted me to do the reading is it said 50-50 and it's really changeable at this time. So I thought this deck is talking to me, it's like, wow, they really usually there's very few timing cards in this big deck of 130 cards. So when it starts giving me timing right up front, I'm like, or timing or chances or probabilities, I thought, okay, this deck has something to say. And
Yeah.
I come right out and say, I don't know if anything's going to happen at all, and I'm perfectly fine if nothing happens. I mean, I think if isn't that one thing that you can say, Hamish, is that after all this, it's like you don't get your hopes up for something and then they get dashed. You're just like, yeah, no, okay, it's
No,
just another day,
just
because
another day. Yep.
that right there is the key to being in your inner being. It is
Yeah.
being steady. It is not being influenced by something outside of you. And taking the responsibility to, yes, we're talking about it, but we're not hyping it, and we're not saying, oh, everybody go out and get, your food and your water. No,
No.
in fact, the message I have is, the key to all of this is really just stay in your freaking brain, like just keep in
Mm.
your common sense and know what
Yeah.
we've been through and know that they have to shift. They have to change. We've got to have some kind of stepping stones to get out from a very controlled arena that we've been playing in. And
Yeah.
so we don't know what it looks like. And I think it's really good to just sort of look at it with a sense of humor and just say,
Mm.
hey, I got through the illness in 2020. I got through, like so many things in my life. I'm going to get through this too. It doesn't matter
Mm.
what it is. Throw it at me. I'm fine. Right?
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be like a March 2020 scenario of like half the world is all doing the same thing, or
Right.
and that was kind of a way I think to show us I mean, not deliberately, or maybe it was, who knows, but it did show us that it can happen that way. Like you can have half the world all doing exactly the same thing, or it can just be you and no
Right.
one else. And
Right.
it's just as significant energetically either way.
Mm-hmm.
So don't try not to get hung up on this idea of, well, I was waiting and nothing happened. But
Right.
it's like, well, of course nothing happened because you were waiting, right?
Right.
Nothing's going to happen if it hasn't happened. You're just sitting there waiting for it. Whereas if it's already happened to you, like if this is just like the one way of describing it, like the script just needs to play out, but energetically it's already done, then you're not blocking it. But
Right.
if you're waiting for it to happen, then patently it hasn't happened yet, which means that's a blocking energy. And I'm not trying to be like nebulous and new age and guru-y about that. That's just like pure consciousness mechanics. That's how this shit works. And it does work. Like I'm not saying I like the way it works. I'm not saying I had a hand in designing the way it works. I'm
You
just
did.
saying
I know you did.
I'm just saying this is what I've learned is like this shit, these mechanics, this is how it works. Like Florence Scovel Shinn, Neville
Yes.
Goddard, like they will tell you how it works. You don't need to like them. You can call them Masons, you can call them Illuminati. Like I don't it's irrelevant actually. Like at the end of the day, you're in here, don't you want to know the mechanics? That's the mechanics. If you don't have it, then you can't have it. It's not there. And so if you're waiting for it, you're blocking it.
Well, and here's a perfect example. We're waiting for something to happen on the presidential front. I mean, I'm watching Dana Carvey videos that are just putting me on the floor. I'm laughing my butt off because, I mean, the political comedy that's going on right now is such a unifying experience where it was exactly the opposite before. And you can watch someone like Dana Carvey and he just cracks me up. But so
Yeah.
we're waiting for something to happen on a political front. You and I are getting ready to get on a video. We get a headline like we got. And are we sitting here talking about it like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is what it means. And this is what's going to happen. And this is like this. No, watch what Hamish and I are doing. We are literally letting go of our attachment to what does it mean? We have to let it play out. So a lot of watching this stuff happen is not giving your energy to something to create it, right? Unless it's something you really want to create. But we're not, it's like we are creating, but we don't want to miscreate. And when you put all your energy into something like what you're saying is waiting is an active energy. And when you put yourself into waiting, you create something not happening. So a really good way to navigate all of this is to just have your little antennas up, know that there's potential like something, a former president just got shot. Okay, that came up. That's going to play out. It's on my radar. I'll be looking. Oh, what happens? What develops? But you notice there's no energy and attachment to what happens. I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I'm not jumping to conclusions. Oh, that someone did it to this to distract us. No judgment. Just watch what happens and then allow yourself to walk through whatever it is. And Hamish, if you're right about a DMT experience, let's switch gears and let's talk about that DMT experience because there's something I want to just set the stage with. Remember, we've been talking about the event for a while. The event.
Have we ever?
And the
And
event, what is that?
Cliff specifically said, I don't want to even call it an event. He didn't say why he didn't, but I know why he didn't, right? He said, let's call it an occurrence.
It's like, okay, because you don't want to use the lingo, because you don't want to attach yourself to that. But what is a DMT experience, no matter what you see in the sky? It is a blissful, it could be a blissful, loving experience that is otherworldly, that is like, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
what most people get to. Yeah,
yeah,
that's where most people end up. And they go through hell and they go through the demons and they go through and it's like the bad trip or the whatever. It's like, yeah, of course you do. All that stuff's in you. Like unless you got it out of you, it's in you. And so when you go through the veils, you're going to see that, right? And this is what we've been talking about, not just the occurrence, the event, but specifically because you can have mini events like when people wake up and smell the coffee, when they, like, whatever happens, they get their red pill moment, suddenly they're seeing demons everywhere, or suddenly they're seeing, like, you can have a personal wake up, a personal
Right.
event that happens to
We
you,
all
and you
have.
flip out, right? They say
Right.
my third eye got blown open, or I had a massive Kundalini experience, or I did DMT and I never came back down, or what. There's all the, like, psych wards are full of people that
Oh, I
have
know.
had this happen to them, where it's like the language that has been getting used a lot in the last few years is the veils are getting thinner, right? Or the veil is getting thinner. Well, add that language in, okay, the veil is absolutely getting thinner. And what Dick, Allgaier, and Cliff are talking about, as well as the fact that there are actual mechanical spaceships up there above you and below
Right.
you, and and there are people walking around with cloaking stuff on, and you can't see them, but they're not spirits. They're actually physical, but they're
Right.
cloaked, and your eyes don't, like, all of that stuff is going on, let alone beings that are only visible in infrared or ultraviolet that are also around us in here all the time. Like, all of that's on the table.
I think about
Because it
that
is.
all the time. I'm like, I got a team of people in this apartment with me. And God, it's like I'm very embarrassed sometimes. Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so part of what they're talking about is this veil. Someone's just going to rip the veil down for maybe 5 seconds and then
Everyone's
put it
gonna
back
go.
up again. And
I
and,
know I
and
saw
like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and you can't, and you won't be able to. And the putting it up again is probably so people just don't go completely mental, because that might happen if you just ripped it down and kept it down.
Well, that's why people have past life or not near death experiences. They go and they get a taste of the other side and they bring it back with them and then they fit it
Exactly.
into their thinking and their,
Exactly.
and
And
it's
this is
kind
why
of,
people have, this
yeah.
is why people do plant medicine. This is why people practice the breath work. This is why people get hooked on these different religions is the wrong word, but these different practices to, die before you die so you don't die when you die. It's like, what is actually not so much behind the veil or out there, but like, what is actually just around you all the time that you're not even perceiving. And that's what this is going to kickstart. And I'm just going to suggest this, right? Even if it was nothing more than a highly coordinated blue beam hologram in the sky event
Which is what
only.
I'm thinking it probably is, but maybe not. Go ahead.
So even if it's that, right, there's no harp, phone tower, whatever, like, stimulating DMT. There's no internal nanotech that people have been injected with playing with them. Like, let's take all of that off the table and just say it's a highly coordinated, worldwide, all in the one kind of moment sky event that is a total hologram, because we've seen those videos of those holograms, right? They're pretty
Oh,
good
yeah.
now.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
can do it really well with drone
Look at
projections and whatever.
Hollywood. For goodness sake, they can do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Right.
And,
Yep.
and so what that'll actually do, though, because of the way consciousness works, is that'll pull the veil down anyway, especially if what's projected in the sky is something that is behind the veil or in dream space or in astral. Because
Because people
what
will
I'm
know.
thinking of here is I'm thinking of point of view camera stuff on YouTube, right? And so
Right?
one of my things is, you can automatically talk about, like, basketball hoops or people water skiing or whatever, but motorbikes is my field. It's what I
Right.
grew up with, right? So no one had ever backflipped a motorbike. People could backflip, like, BMXs. People are like, they kind of started backflipping BMXs. No one had backflipped a motorbike, and this was a 4 minute mile thing that happened. If anyone is familiar with the story of the 4 minute mile, no one could run a mile in 4 minutes. I'm
Right.
sure it is 4 minutes. And they spent years training. These English guys spent years training, and then the moment they broke it, it was like within months someone else broke it.
Because
Then
they
someone else
believe they
broke it
could, right?
because
It's
they
just
knew they could.
right.
So it's like, and so same thing with backflipping motorbikes. Like, no one had ever backflipped a motorbike, even into a foam pit or into water. Just like, no one ever. The first guy, and it's like, it's not even 20 years ago. The first guy, this young fella, backflips a motorbike. Within like a couple of years, we've now got kids triple backflipping motorbikes
That's amazing, isn't it?
because they know that it's possible. So
Yeah.
if you project something that, and this is kind of playing around with the DMT realm and consciousness and astral and whatever, is you don't remember what's going on in your dreams, right? But it is going on, and
Right.
that is going on in the astral. Like no matter what you think about dream space or what, like that is out there, and you don't know what's around you, but your senses, your body, like your unconscious, it knows what's there, even though you can't process the data. So there's a part of you that is fully aware of
Right.
everything that's going on here, even if you're not consciously aware. Now, if someone gives you a snapshot of like even like a fake behind the veil, like a holographic blue beam thing, and what they show you matches up with the reality behind the veil, that's going to rip the veil for you.
Right.
Like Marvel movies rip the veil for you. DC movies rip the veil, that, and it's a double-edged sword because you watch Doctor Strange and you're like, yeah, that's how it happens, but also if I have dreams about that now, it's just because I watched the movie. It's just fiction. It's just make-believe. It's like, they're trying to get ahead of the game and show you this fiction so that when it actually stands in the room, you won't believe it because it's fiction.
Well,
But
what I would like to ask you though is, all right, so they do Project Bluebeam. Wouldn't the majority of us that know about Project Bluebeam go, that was just fake? Wouldn't a lot of people just go, that was just fake? It wasn't real, and not it because we've been so brainwashed to think like that because of movies, because of that. How do we get around that? I don't know. They're doing it, not me.
Yeah. So yes. And now my idea of the nervous system thing drops in. Like, yeah, you would think it was fake, right? But what if it was a big enough event? I'm thinking again, like three mysterious buildings in New York. What if it was a big enough event to blow the doors off its hinges for you in an energetic way? What if it bypasses all of your sensory perceptions and just puts you on your knees?
Right.
Even though it's just a picture in the sky, right?
That's where the DMT experience comes in, right? That's where they get in. And that's what they were showing is the ganglion nerves. Some of these remote viewers were being shown like the ganglion nerves and the hypothalamus and the, is that what it's called?
And so, hippocampus.
Hippocampus.
And all I don't remember the technical stuff because I'm just like, details.
You did too. I'm the one that didn't remember. Don't shortchange yourself.
but So now we can see, like, we can kind of like play out the layers and go, all right, so it can be a totally fake thing in the sky, but it's calibrated specifically in the areas that it happens to get the group of, like, Jesus is going to get shown not to the Christian countries, but to the Muslim countries. The Christian countries will get something else, right? Because Jesus in the sky, you'd think might be an amazing thing for Christian countries, but actually it'd be probably more of a thing in a country that's not into that.
Right.
Like and you could imagine like think tanks of groups of people sitting around tables going, what should we show this demographic? What should we show that demographic to have the biggest shock value? Because that's probably what they're going for. If this is something that they do roll out, they need to kick that nervous system into overdrive.
Yeah.
They need to go past the fight or flight. Like you blow right through that and you just go straight into catatonic, where you're just pinned against the wall. You just can't.
Right.
And that's when you'll get the endorphin release. That's when you'll get the DMT release. And then who knows what the hell you'll see in the sky, because what you'd see in the sky under normal circumstances will change quite a bit.
Depending on what's there.
If someone puts a monster dose of DMT through your system, like if your lungs put a monster dose of DMT through your system because you're having this crazy effect,
right?
Then who knows what the hell you're going to see, because there's actually other stuff up there.
Right.
And
so you might see the real stuff or you might
Yeah.
see your own stuff. It just really,
Yeah.
everyone gets their own personal experience.
And then
If this
it's a layer
happens.
cake. then it's a layer cake like 2020 again. It's like,
True.
what were they doing in 2020? Were they doing this? Were they doing that? And it's like, no, they were doing about 15 different things.
Yep.
And only 6 or 7 of them actually came off, but all of them were put in play at once.
And it depended on what your belief system. So many people were just defending their belief system because they bought whatever story they were shown, sold, or whatever, hook, line, and sinker. And what I want to emphasize is when you tune into your inner being and you go inside and you ask, like you really feel into something, what is the absolute truth of this? What happened to me is I was led to go look up the vaccinations and what was given to people in the New York area that year before. And then I saw that there was a special souped up vaccine, and I put it together with something else. And my inner being showed me that whatever happened in New York was based on they did something to the booster. So this wasn't the actual illness. It was something else. And the volume was turned up on the 5 in the letter that comes before F or A or whatever. I'm not going to get that specific, but you know what I'm saying. Those two things, that's what my inner being showed me that was. And so as soon as I saw that, I said, oh, okay. So that was a direct attack on that city. And then they wanted us to buy it, believe it, hook, line, and sinker around the world that would happen to us. And so now that gives you a good reason to lock down. Yep. That was what my inner being showed me. That's not what anyone told me. I figured it out myself. So I think that it's just a really good reminder that it doesn't matter what happens. I mean, like I said, we're sitting here talking about DMT blasts and, oh my gosh, we could have nothing happen and we'll be like, okay, I still can stand before, people that are watching this channel and with complete dignity, because we're not calling an event happening. My cards say 50-50. I'm going with that.
You still said 50-50, so that means there's a pretty good chance that nothing is going to happen in the sky on the 15th or the 16th. Does that mean nothing will happen on the 18th?
Right. Or the 20th or and not just that. We just had something happen 11 minutes before we got on here, and we don't know the repercussions. I'd say that kind of thing, and the first thing I did when I heard the news about Trump was, oh my gosh, I gotta go look it up. And then of course you're looking it up from your side of the world. And what was so weird is seeing a newscast that said 11 minutes ago. I was like, how is it possible that the word spread that fast? That's how these things happen.
Because they were ready to go, right?
They were ready to go.
Pre-planned event. So like my little system just says, oh yeah, okay, so something is logged to happen, and just for everyone's benefit, everything runs on New York time. Like no one gives dates, no one gives times, but if you are giving dates and times for anything in the world, it's all based on East Coast time. Don't ask me why. That's just how it seems to work.
Right.
Here we are. So yeah.
I was going to say, so don't expect this big event to happen on your 15th, okay?
No.
This
It'll
is
all
my
be based.
15th.
It'll all be based on East Coast United States time, because it just is for whatever reason. And so like something like this happening in the United States to me is prime the pump. This is priming the pump of getting people jangled and getting people, and like the pump is primed in the United Kingdom because they've just had their election thing, whatever the hell that was. The pump is primed in places in Europe because they've been having election stuff, and you'll see these news things will come up, and even if nothing happens, because like this is like military operation stuff, and not just military operation, but just operation in general, like from a livestock handling point of view, you can spend days getting ready to do something, and then if you get to the moment and something's not correct, you just we'll just pull the plug. Maybe that means we'll do it tomorrow. Maybe that means we have to go next week. But if we go now, everything goes wrong. So you just can't go now. So like we're saying, it still doesn't mean anything's going to happen. But this thing with like shots fired at a presidential rally, this
and
looks
blood
like
reported.
Yeah, and like suddenly it's just like everywhere instantly, almost like they had the story ready to go.
I was
Like,
going to
really?
say, yeah, I'll just throw it out there. There have been people that said that he's been dead a while. Then same with
Mm.
Biden. I mean, there's people that say stuff like that. And, I'm like, who am I? I have no idea. I'm not going to sit and trust mainstream media, and I'm not even going to trust behind the scenes media. I've done that before too. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to let it
Don't
all
trust any
sort
of
of
them.
play out, but very interesting that we've
But
got this going on a
anyone who's
Saturday. Yeah.
anyone who's been looking at my Instagram story feed, I'm not a big fan of Meta at all, actually, but
Yeah.
I do just play around on Instagram. That's where I'm a bit cheeky, is on the story feed,
Okay.
and something came up around one of them. I don't know who, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, I forget. It was one of them anyway. Sorry, what's his name? The Ghislaine Maxwell and the guy that didn't
Oh,
kill himself.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Epstein, the guy that didn't hang
Epstein.
himself.
Yeah, the guy
Um,
the guy that didn't hang himself.
and it was a interview with a fellow who said, like, this guy didn't exist. This guy is like the physical man who you see in photos, like, he existed, but he was an actor. Like, this man who had this job, who built this fortune, that's a fiction, right? Like, just any way you try and slice it, it doesn't stack up.
Right.
And as soon as you dig just below the surface, that whole persona is a fiction that's built so that when it gets to the correct point or something goes wrong, the fictional character gets fed into the fire and everyone goes, oh, well, that's all over. And I was like, hooray, someone finally said the quiet bit out loud. I'm going, yes, Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. Like, if you believe the cockamamie backstories that they give these guys,
Right.
you, I've got a bridge to set you somewhere. Like, they didn't make that money. They're not geniuses.
Right.
They didn't. You could probably add Mr. iPhone to that, who went to
Job. Yeah.
uh, whatever his name
Stephen
is.
Job. Job.
Stephen Jobs, yeah,
Job.
who
Yeah.
went to India and had the DMT experience and came back and, like, nah, come on.
No.
It's like, no, 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 no. This is an operation built by a committee, built by a team, and there's the figurehead actor. And then when it finally goes a little bit sideways, you can sacrifice the figurehead and move on. And it happens every single time.
And
These
you gotta
characters are
wonder.
active.
Now, what do you think about Trump and that? Was he one of
Total
those?
figurehead.
Complete
Total
figurehead.
figurehead.
So, all right.
Total figurehead. Now there's other stuff going on underneath, but the public persona of Trump, like this guy that people, like I said to you, I think in a private message, I was talking about the Trump effect. I love the Trump effect. It's like you get out there and you lean into whatever you're doing hard, and
Right.
50% of the people hate your guts, and the other
Right.
50% of the people love you. And it's this you use that polarization as a force field to drive things forward, right? I don't believe the public persona or even the private persona that we are aware of Donald Trump any more than I believe Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian.
Right.
It is a persona that
Right.
has been built. Was there a man? Was there a family? Is there a legacy? Is there? Sure. Like, all of that can be, but this character
He's
that's
a
been built
character.
is a total fiction.
Right.
Total fiction. And that's just grown. Like, that might have just started out as a way to handle a billionaire, fortune, and working in the public sector and doing whatever like that. It could have just started like that. But it looks to me like, if someone said that's a Russian agent and a cutout and it's a fiction. It's a fictional cutaway character with a created story for a purpose. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how embedded secret agents work. So who embedded these guys and who are they working for? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just the system, right?
Yeah.
The system needs billionaires just like it needs people living in the gutter. So who actually knows who's driving that?
There does
But
seem
they're
to
not
be
real.
a story. There seems to be a storyline. There seems to be a movie
Always.
at play. It's
Always.
the unraveling of everything. And I choose to believe, this is just me, as I choose to believe that this is the universe at play, that we are all playing in this universe, and that the script has to be written so that we all get our powers back.
I
We're
agree.
we're done with
I
the
agree
being
with
the
that.
little peons in the
Yeah,
pool.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I agree with that.
Right.
I think that there is an algorithmic system, like a digital consciousness, and there are also some organic consciousnesses at work here who understand very much how that mechanism works
Hmm.
and are using it to their benefit, which means to not to the benefit of a lot of other beings around them.
Right.
And that's the bit that grinds at us. It's like if you want to do something in here and play the system for your benefit, go right ahead. Like that's not a drama. That's playing the game. That fine. But if your benefit equals like other people's non-benefit,
Right.
get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Like no, that's not the way to play a game at all. I don't. Well, I win, you lose is a shit game, and I've never enjoyed.
And we're
Never.
tired of that game, right, Hamish? We
Oh
don't want
man,
that game anymore. We're done. You hear me?
no,
We're
no,
coming
we are
for you.
done. Yeah, we're totally done. Like there is such a thing as win-win, and if you want to keep playing in win-lose, no,
It's not going to
like
work
that's
out
not.
very well for you.
No, no, we're done with that.
No. And I do think that that's what all of this is about. I do believe that everyone is playing some form of a part in the wrap up of this whole big storyline, dystopian nightmare, meets planet Earth or whatever. I do think that we're playing out this script. And so my main reason for wanting to get on here was to say, you know, regardless of what happens, knowing that everything is a stepping stone to a better way. And it has to be because, again, I always say that where I get my intel and my information from is inside of me now more than ever. I know that, hey, I was brainwashed and I've been brainwashed, so I'm not, but to go inside and to have a relationship with everything around you and to see for yourself that things are changing inside you. If you see you're changing and your experiences are changing with the people in your life, you're improving your life, you're improving your situation, you feel more centered and more in a place of love for yourself. You're working through a lot of things. You're going into self-acceptance. All of these things, that is the awakening process right there.
Yeah,
That's how you tell if the world is changing around you. Because if
yeah,
you change, you start to see the world starts to change around you. So I don't need to be convinced by all these stories that things are happening. I know that they're happening because they're happening to me.
mm.
But for this particular, red alert, I just thought it would be really good for us to talk about this because we have been getting the memo, and we have been like the thing about the fasting and the moving
Yeah,
our bodies and being in
yes,
training, feeling like we're getting
something's happening.
centered. We're getting
Yeah,
centered.
something's happening.
Something's
Something's
happening.
coming.
Yup.
Something's coming. And like
Yep.
I said at the start of my video yesterday, you don't need an alignment. You don't need a line up in the sky. You don't need an event. You don't need a whatever Cliff called it that's not an event. Like you can any moment, like you can do that behind the veil. You are your own lineup. You have your
Hmm.
own portals. You can do that at any single moment in here. What we're actually talking about is like what we have been saying for quite some time is you need to clean your bedroom and get your stuff organized before someone comes in to do it for you, because the thing that's going to come in and do it for you, that's not going to be all that pretty potentially. And this is why we're doing this video now, is because potentially in the next 3 or 4 days something might happen that will force you, or maybe like it's like this idea of like getting your third eye and jamming it open,
I
like
hope
getting
that
in
doesn't
that pineal
happen.
gland. Yeah, getting in that
No.
pineal gland and making something happen. And like that, you don't really want that at
No.
all, which is
Mm-mm.
why I am always talking about breathing and fasting and eating correctly and doing the work and checking out lucid dreaming and checking out OBEs it's not because any of that's fun or cool. It's because that's what's actually going on in here. And if you don't see that until you're in a pressure situation, it's going to be a hell of a shock. So
Right.
try and get a glimpse. Just try and get a glimpse beforehand so that you've got some idea of how to navigate.
Right.
Because if someone just went and suddenly we're all in the DMT world, like that'd be hard enough for me to navigate.
Oh, it would be impossible for me to navigate. I have nightmares about that kind of stuff. And I've had
Yeah.
some experience with that when I was younger. And,
Exactly.
but for people that haven't had any experience, but at the same time, I want to say that when you give yourself the notice, when your ego gets the notice that, hey, there's a possibility that something could happen, then you're at least, you have that thought when something does happen. Oh, I know where to file this. I know where this belongs. I know what to do with this, rather than, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So-
And like also watch that as well. It would be my advice around that, because whatever you think you know how to do with it, it's probably not what you should be doing with it.
So what's
like
your advice?
So yeah, I'm totally off the top of my head around this,
I
but
love it. Just go for it.
but like both of those things are really good. Like knowing that you know that something's coming and you know where to put it, like, oh, that's just a hologram in the sky, or oh, well, that's just the spaceships that we retro engineered from something in 1947, or we've had them the whole time and they've been hiding them from us. Like, so it's not a big shock. Everyone's been talking about it. Like, whatever that kind of thing is, that's going to stop you from going into the place where this situation might put you, this forced wake-up event. That's a 50-50 that it might happen, right? If a forced wake-up event happens, there's a potential it's going to jam you into a tailspin. And anyone who's been a pilot or watched planes, when you get in a tailspin, most aircraft aren't equipped for that, and you can't get out of it. It's called a death spiral. If you can't eject, like the center of gravity just keeps you jammed in your seat until you're jammed into the ground. That's how it works.
What's
right?
the good news?
So the
We
good,
get out of
well,
it.
yeah. So expecting, like you said, like knowing that something might be coming and knowing what it is, expecting and seeing it and going, oh, I know what that is. That's going to avoid the death spiral. So that's
Okay.
really, really good to have these conversations to go, look, like just putting it out there, like aliens, yeah, angels, yeah, demons, gods, yeah, spaceships in the sky, spaceships under the sea, under the ground, yeah, all of the above, right? That's all in play here. And if you see it, if you see a dragon, if you see a unicorn, like, don't flip out.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. Like, yeah, this stuff is in play at some level. And then once you realize that you're not, because you initially, your nervous system will go, dragon in the sky, and it's like tailspin, right? And then you go, hang on a minute, that's blue beam. That's someone's messing with us. And you kind of like, you calm your body down and everything's okay. And then from that point go, actually, I don't know what I'm looking at yet. That could be a hologram. It could be real. Real. What is real? We're back to the start of the conversation, right? So it's like thinking that you know what's coming is the way to avoid the tailspin. But then once you level out and you're not in a tailspin, absolutely knowing that you don't know what the is going on.
Right.
Actually. Like
Right.
I don't know. I know I have an awareness about a lot of stuff, but I don't know what's going on, and I don't kid myself that I do know. And keeping open at that level means I'm awake to everything.
Right.
All of a sudden, like it opens up your peripheral vision, and you can see more when you're not expecting something. When you expect to see a dinosaur, not a dragon, you'll see a dinosaur, right? Like
Right.
those old viral videos of the gorilla, the guy in the gorilla suit with the basketball walking through the middle of the mall, and no one even twigs. Most people don't even see him, right? It was just like mind-blowing watching that stuff, because no one is expecting to see, if it was a normal-sized person in a gorilla suit holding a bunch of bananas, everyone would be laughing. Everyone would be looking. They'd be going, is it real? Is it not real? But like a 7'2" gorilla holding a basketball, that's not in anyone's wheelhouse. They weren't expecting to see it. And 99% of people just did not see it.
Right.
Those old videos are like wild to go back and watch because it's not set up.
Right.
Like this is pre-internet prank.
Right.
It's crazy to see. And so when you expect to see something, that means you're not expecting to see something.
Well, and that's
And
keeping
locks you in this thing.
just staying
And so
non-attached to what you're seeing. That,
that's the one when you can just open up. When you can open up and go,
I don't know
I'm
what
ready
this
for
means.
actually anything. I don't know what this means. I don't know what this is. That's a great place to be. But you can't get there. It's like step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 2 is you think you know what's going on. You know, blue beam, you know, DMT stuff, you know, like you've got all these potentials. And so when the freaky thing happens, you've got something to fall back on that keeps you out of the tailspin. And then step 3 is, but I don't actually know what's going on here. So I'm
Well,
open to all possibilities.
I have something to add to this. I think it's pretty realistic to think that even if we have a very calm, cool, and collected approach, our body reacts. So a lot
So
of
glad you
times,
said that.
yeah, the body will react. So the body reacts. But what I have been in training probably for the last 5 years, it's a crazy thing. And I know I'm starting to realize how much this comes in. And what I'm thinking is maybe anyone listening to this video can relate to this. Have you experienced anxiety to where you've had like maybe trauma? Like I've had some trauma situations around relationships. And when a certain thing is confronted, the heart starts pounding and I feel like, oh my God, here we go. But the stronger you get in your conviction of your own power and your own strength, you start to walk yourself through that and you feel the heart pounding, but there's a calmness within you. So you're like, even though your whole body is going into anxiety and fear and heat flush all over, there's a part of you that says, no, I'm not going into that fear again, right? And then you start, okay, I'm going to say this. And then I'm going to say this, and I do say this, and I do say this. And even though my heart is pounding, I'm still showing up in myself, right? It's called overriding whatever your body wants to do. And
Yeah.
I think in this particular case, that's another thing to think about is just if you've had issues with anxiety, you might just want to get your anxiety, whatever anxiety remedy you use, have it handy. If it's, you know, your favorite tea or your favorite bath or salts or whatever. But if you can also know that through this whole period of the last several years, how many people haven't been through anxiety big time? It can be around a job. It can be around money. It can be around family members. It can be around, you know, whether you have COVID, whether you're taking, you know, whatever. It can
Yeah.
be anything. And that anxiety has been your training ground. How's that?
Yeah, that's perfect. It's like, yeah, the double-edged sword of like the system pushing people's nervous systems to the brink so that something like this could actually get pulled off. But if you're doing that, like some people are using those push-ups as training rather than exhausting themselves. Yeah, and it's like the word courage. Like the term courage does not mean no fear. The term courage means you are effective even though the fear is there.
Yes.
Because if you're in a situation where there's potential dangers everywhere and you don't have fear, you're just stupid. Like you're just not reading the signals, right? That's not courage. That's stupidity.
Right.
Courage is your body having a sweat reaction. You're getting you kind of everything locks up. You get a bit tongue tied. You get like whatever
You
the
get
trauma
that
is
feeling
around.
like you just can't even like.
Your body hits this panic response,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you interpret the signals coming in, you assess the situation around you, and you move through it anyway.
And I think that more people are actually prepared for that than they even know, because I
And they
think
even
that
know.
that is
Yeah.
what the trauma training really gives you. When and so many people, come on, who hasn't had trauma? We're in the
Yeah.
trauma capital of the universe. It's like there's no more
That's what
trauma
this
than
place
here.
is. Yeah.
Exactly. So but even them turning up the heat, or us turning up the heat, or whoever did, the intensity with which we are experiencing life has
Mm.
really prepared us in a positive way to where we can, and again, this is about being a human being, a fractal of your higher self in the universe. I talk about that in my videos. You
Yeah.
are all powerful. So all this other stuff that you're worried about, you can blow it away with a thought. You seriously
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So this is all exercises in us learning who we are and what power we
Yeah.
have in the universe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's that thing of like, are you it's a storyline, right? Like both of these are storylines. One of them is there are evil controllers who are keeping you under wraps in a farming prison planet situation, and there's not really like there's kind of stuff you can do, like a sheep can break out of the farm, right? But really there's not a lot of power you've got, and this is all set up by them, right?
Right.
And then there's that other view of this is all set up by us. We agreed to this. We're in here. We're doing push-ups. We're training ourselves, and we're working out how to get out. And this is just a situation. It's like, how do you work out how to get out of a situation that's impossible to get out of? You have to become something you've never been before. You have to imagine something that's never existed before. Now, both of those are probably not what's going on. Both of those scenarios are just storylines. Which one empowers you more?
Exactly.
Choose that one and keep moving, knowing that it's not the truth. It's just a storyline.
Right.
Like you're just using it to get you to the next bit where you've got to get another couple of storylines to choose from. Don't choose the storyline that gives your power away unless you're like, that's like, why
The
would you do
last
that?
choice. Well,
Yeah, you
it's your
can if
last
you want.
choice. Right.
Yeah, but
Right.
why would you? Why would you choose the storyline? Because both of them are a lie, right? If they're not the truth, they're both lies. They're
Right.
just either as much as we can grasp of what's going on in here at the moment, or they're just flat out, they're just both deceptions for whatever reason. So if you've got a choice of two deceptions in front of you, choose the deception that means that you're the badass, not
Yes.
the
Why wouldn't
deception that
you?
means that you're a weak little thing in the corner with no recourse. Because why
Exactly.
would you do that?
Exactly. It's like I always say, you're going to tell yourself stories. Why not tell yourself a story that works to your benefit?
Exactly.
Why would you want to
Exactly.
tell a story that makes you small and powerless? And I think that the answer to that is all the brainwashing in here doesn't want
Mm.
you to know the power that you have. So everything teaches you from when you're a small child that to stand in your power and to be your true amazing self is ego, and it's a show off, and it's all of these things. So,
Yep.
be contrite, put your head down, say nothing, and be a good little girl or boy or whatever. Well, fuck that. I'm
I
not
just
playing that game.
yes, yeah,
Do I need to
absolutely.
beep that out on the video? I don't
No,
think so. I
no,
think if it's
don't.
that late in the
But
video, we've lost 90% of the people
if
anyways.
I had a little party thing to blow, I'd be like, "Beep." Like, yeah, absolutely, yeah, f that.
Oh
That's
my
not that.
gosh.
Like, don't choose a story that makes you small.
No.
Like you can, but like, why would you? And look, if you turn around, like, and here's just a little bit of housekeeping for anyone who's watching this. If you turn around and look at what's been going on in your life, maybe just in the last even little bit, and you see that of the stories that you could possibly choose, you have been choosing the story that keeps you small, just lean into that and ask why. Because there's probably very compelling reasons
Right.
why you've been choosing the story that keeps you small. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, I've been programmed, I've been brainwashed. There could just be a bit of you that knows how strong, how big, how much of a badass you are, and is just getting a little bit of a kick,
Yeah.
like a kinky little kick out of being kept small and in a box. And you're like, that's a distasteful idea. I don't even like that idea, I don't want to even engage with that idea, which means that if that is the case, it's a blind spot that you're never going to see.
Right.
So just engage with it and go, is that the case? Is there a part of me that's actually getting a bit of a kick out of being kept small and being, it looks like there is. Well, let's feel into that. Let's actually pull that bit out of the closet and give it some air and say hello and give it a cup of tea and see how it's going. And because that's how you deal with trauma and programming, and you don't hide it. You bring it out and you give it a hug and you have a look at it and you see what's going on, and then you send it on its way.
Right. Well, and I have known people who I think have made disempowerment choices simply to have the experience of it. And so that might be the soul's desire to have the experience of disempowerment, and through that learning your power, that this is what it felt like to be really small, and now I see what it feels like. So through contrast. So everything that we're saying here really is not said in judgment as much as observation and choice. The choice to be empowered is in fact a choice. And when you find the choice, and depending upon who you are, we're just sort of having conversations from the perspective of two people that really choose to be empowered, and nobody's choices, but is it a choice? And I think that that's Hamish's point, is take a look at the stuff. And if you find yourself in traumatic situations, abusive situations where you feel like you have no control, maybe it's just time to start looking at that and say, is it time for you to choose differently? So... Yeah.
And no, like you say, there's absolutely no judgment. I mean, in anything that I say, anywhere, anytime, there is never any judgment, because I've cleaned up enough of my own nonsense in my own backyard to would never judge anyone else for this stuff.
Yeah,
like,
me
I've
neither.
done enough of my own work, and I know how much work is still there to do, that to judge anyone else would be ridiculous at this point.
Well, I think we all have that, we all have the stuff that we came in to clear and to balance, especially in this lifetime. That's what it feels like to me. Like when we think, why do certain people have experiences that they're having? I really feel like in this particular lifetime, in this time and space, everyone's really balancing out the energies of maybe their entire existence in this realm. And I know that sounds like a really big statement, but and that's why I don't judge, because I really know that we all have different energies to balance, and we don't know what our other experiences were and how much balancing we did in those other experiences. But from my heart to my viewers and to anyone that would hear this video, is that I just know what it feels like to be disempowered through, my experiences, and to move into a more empowered space. And the absolute joy that you get when you connect with that inner aspect of yourself, where you feel like you have that compass, and the game actually becomes a lot more fun to play, because you don't feel like people are pulling you off track all the time. And that was a big one for me.
Yeah. And it's like, when you said it's a big, that's a big call, like that's a big statement. When you said this particular lifetime, what immediately came up and through me was the last one. This is the last one. That's a big call. Now I hear it, like, I don't know, right? I don't know anything.
I don't
but
either.
I know that
We're hoping.
anytime anyone says something about this lifetime, the signal that comes up out of me, out of my inner space, is this is the last effing one. We're not going any further with this. Like, this is, if it's not done here, then it's just left undone, because we're not going any further.
Oh, please, from your lips to the universe's ears. We're wrapping this show up, man. We've had enough.
But that means like, that speaks to the intensity of the times, doesn't it? Since, at least since 2016, and probably since, I don't know when. Go back as far as you want to go. But it's been intense. Like, it's been compressed. And we can talk about, well, it's because of telephone lines and communication, instant communication, and now it's the internet. And there's always a reason why it seems like the energetics are much more compressed. And it's to me that's a chicken and egg situation. But what I can say is, if you don't need to look back too far to know that every 6 months from at least 2016 onwards, there's been more compression, and we're getting close to something.
Birthing. We're in the birthing process. That's what I think's happening.
Yeah.
We're in a birthing process, and it's feeling like we're right in that stretch where you're just like, squeeze, somebody help me.
The 2020 operation being named after a thing that is crown, like the literal interpretation is crown. It's like, so are we crowning? Are we crowning?
We are.
That doesn't mean it's over. Ask any mother about the shoulders, right? Crowning doesn't mean it's over.
No.
Like the head's bad, but you've still got the shoulders to go. Like,
regardless if they go like this, it's still shoulders.
There's still shoulders. Yeah. You can still incur some damage.
I know. Oh my gosh. We have been on for an hour and 20 minutes. We probably ought to wrap this up because we could just talk forever. We both love to talk, don't we?
We do.
We love it.
Yep.
And so I did look at an update. It says Trump injured, rushed from the stage. So it does seem that maybe he is still with us. The shooter and one spectator are dead. Okay, and we've got someone in serious condition. And so this is the latest update from my iPhone to yours.
So all I'm going to say to anyone out there, all I'm going to say around this is anything like this. I don't know, like how much we can use the SHOOTING
I
word.
probably just used it. I might have to beep those words out.
Yeah.
Oh man, I hate editing.
But like any public event where that happens, and the one who supposedly is holding the firearm in question and does
they're
the
gonna
act,
be.
if they get taken out, you know that it's an operation of some sort.
Right.
Like that person who's standing, whether they did it or whether they're just the patsy, like what's his name in the book suppository, the book depository thing,
Yeah.
They're the ones that are set up to make it look like they're the ones that did it. Though, or even in the Australian one, the stabbing in the Australian mall, right? The guy, they are never allowed to walk away from the scene ever.
Right.
Body bag only. Right? So that tells you right now it's an operation.
Okay.
100%. Like no matter what's going on, that is not an organic event.
Right.
Like there's a very slim chance, because when we're talking like everyone's service ammunition, especially in the States, because it is everyone's service ammunition, is 9mm ammunition. And I can tell you the stats on 9mm ammunition is you need to put 6 to 11 of those into the average male body to stop him moving. Not to kill him, to stop him. Now, a clip only holds like 13, most of those clips. So that's a full clip out of a gun will stop them in their tracks, at least 6. But it won't kill them.
Right.
So if this person is like dead on the scene, that means he's meant to be dead on the scene.
Right.
And that's just another data point.
So now we've just got another data point. So Hamish just put together another data point. It's probably been, maybe an hour and a half since this happened. So I guess we'll find out what the repercussions are and if anything builds over this weekend. And this will be interesting to see what happens. We will reconvene at a later date to discuss it further, I can assure you.
if the internet's still operational.
I was going to say, who knows what we're going to be able to do. Let's pray. Yeah. Let's hope. Yeah. No, okay. All right. Well, thank you, Hamish, for, spending this time with me. I always love our conversations. Thank you for watching. If you made it to this, you get a medal. I mean, that was a long video. And
thank you everyone for watching, and thank you for having me, Debbie. It's always lovely to talk with you.
You're very welcome. I love having you on too. All right. Well, I guess we'll just say goodbye for now, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Take care.